are here for, I don't know, episode 8? Is it 8? Lucas?
More than y'all. 8. I don't know, 8, 9.
Somewhere right around there. All right, man. So it is the first part of June. Hundreds of things going on. Your hair has not receded in its frizziness.
No, and it's only going more. We got Fierce and Scrappy going to Backyard Brawl in a couple weeks. We got Fargo. I just got told, I guess I'm throwing together a team for DeSilva Duals too. So I'm going yeah, exactly.
DeSilva Duals is like, I don't know, like 3 days after you get back from Fargo.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right. Well,
I know.
All good. Yeah, so we're gonna get to the DeSilva Memorial Duels and, you know, some of the highlights, and took some pictures and all the different things that are associated with it. But the truth is, you can't bury the lead. And the lead this weekend are the U20 World Team members from the Southeast, Maddie Singleton, Sawyer Bartelt and Greco. Shout out to South Dade. Shout out to Woodward, the Circle W for Maddie Singleton and him making the world team. But there were a lot of really good results from this weekend. Yeah. Let's begin with the Greco and Sawyer Bartelt. And he sat in the finals waiting on the winner of the challenge tournament for U20s. And
another 2 for Bartelt and another gut wrench. That does it.
And he beat Jack Dara, I think of Missouri, 2-1 and 9-0, right? And, you know, I didn't go back and look, and I wonder, and I'm wondering if you have an idea of, do you think sitting in the challenge tournament or sitting in the finals waiting for the challenge tournament winner was a benefit or not a benefit?
I think it depends. I mean, I think we had this conversation. I think we touched on it last week. I think it just depends on the wrestler. Like, if you're a guy like me, I've always been, I am notorious for my first match being really slow. And I've had to get better about that. Like, if you're someone like me whose first match is a bit of a slog, then it's probably not great. But if you're one of those kids, like, it was kind of funny this weekend watching the Camden crew that basically got up about 1.5 matches out, did a little bit of a stretch. Ryder kept taking his wrestling shoes off and only putting them on 1 match out, and then wrestling. Like, if you're better like that, then maybe the rest period is better. Like, I think it just depends on the person.
I think looking at it, I think the ones that were waiting on the challenge tournament winner to get there they were more likely to win. I think they won more matches than the person who had to actually get through the challenge tournament. But Sawyer Bartelt, fantastic job. Shout out to South Dade. Sawyer also took 3rd on freestyle for 97 kilos. Outstanding job by him. I believe the U20s go to Poland. So, it's a fantastic accomplishment. All right, so let's move to the All Georgia Finals at 59 kilos or 79 kilos. And I asked you in last week's episode, who was most likely out of all the people to make a world team? And I said Sawyer, right? After you initially took Chase, but then went with Singleton. And what was it about Singleton that kind of made you feel like he had an opportunity to really get it done?
You know, I think it's different, and it comes from a perspective of having me and him had a couple of run-ins and feeling him. And the way he wrestles, man, he wrestles in a really similar way to a lot of the guys that I see at the highest level, or at least that you should aspire to wrestle like at the highest level, in the sense of going for it at all costs, being, I call it kind of being a gamer, like just willing to, no matter the situation, throwing what you have You never pucker, as Coach Etheridge would call it, and kind of shrink. And he just always rises to the occasion. And in a situation going against Gabe Arnold, the guy that I guarantee you he's rolled with hundreds of times in Georgia wrestling rooms, it must, and that's one of the biggest storylines I think of the World Team Trials was two friends. Like if people know, these two are friends. They've trained together, been on teams together for years.
Right.
So it was real fascinating, and it was tugging at the heartstrings as a fan, knowing both of those guys. It was really, and knowing the families, knowing Mr. Singleton, knowing Mr. Arnold, it was awesome to see. And Maddie came out on top in a war, three-match war, basically.
Yeah, so
But
let's actually walk through it. So for people who don't know and didn't get to see it or capture the highlights, in match 1,
Trim. Iowa commit, moved to Iowa City. He's got the Seabolt club logo on his chest. He's also Singleton, his opponent on a single leg, looking to finish. 4. It is 4. Singleton in the blue singlet, Wolfpack RTC.
Singleton got up early on Gabe, and then he kind of, then the rest of the match is super tight. But man, getting up by 4 points in the first 30 seconds of a match,
basically,
is really hard to come back from.
And especially for a guy like Gabe, who, not in a bad way, is really good coming off the counter. Gabe is really good at down blocks to reattacks. He's got some super good ducks when guys will shoot and they're coming back up and he'll catch a wrist. Like, he's really good coming off a counter. So if he gets down in a hole early, we've seen it before sometimes, that he sometimes has trouble clawing back out of it. Yeah. Because, it's not to say he can't attack, by the way, as I said, in a similar fashion to Luke Lillidahl, just because he's one of the best counter attackers I've ever seen doesn't mean he can't put you on your tail coming at you.
Right.
Like, that's very, also a likelihood. It's just, feel like it's like you said, Maddie went up early and kind of was able to control the pace of that first match.
So we moved to match 2, and in that match,
bit more back and forth.
Yeah. In that match, I think it actually, what was it? Well, it was a 2-2 criteria for Gabe, but it was a lot of shot clock violations. I think there was one step out. It was kind of one of those things where it was not as exciting as one would kind of want.
Yeah, and I think it's because Gabe was able to control the pace of that match and understand that Maddie, as an athlete, just because of his size, it made him such a daunting task in a full frontal, shooting all the guns that you got kind of match, that it not saying put him at a disadvantage, because Gabe can do that same thing, might I add, but Maddie is more likely to win that match, whereas Gabe understood, a bit stockier, a bit smaller than Maddie. If I can make this pace a bit more methodical and a bit more of a walk you down kind of match, that he'd be at an advantage, and it came out with a 2-2 win.
Yeah. Well, and then heading to match 3.
Oh, and by the way, in match 2, with like a second left, Maddie was close to a step out. Go back and watch match 2. Watch Gabe's left foot damn near hit the line as he's getting ran down. Say, I thought Maddie might almost steal it at the end, which would have been insanity.
Or Arnold will have the lead in very short time.
Gabe Arnold is so sound positionally. I am honestly surprised Singleton was able to put up 6 points on him on match 1. I thought matches would be more similar to what we've seen in match 2. Singleton,
point.
No,
and no extra point. Arnold was at the point, and Singleton couldn't get that one to go to count. So Gabe Arnold guts that one out, and we're gonna get.
Yeah, well, and I want to make sure that I mention the clips that we're showing are from Flow Wrestling. You can watch the entire match on Flow Wrestling. You have to have a subscription, but go watch it. It's really, really, they're just really good matches. And then heading into the third match, did Gabe have the momentum because he won the second match, or not necessarily? Did you feel like it was kind of like, we just get one more match?
I feel like it was kind of even Steven. Like it was, I feel like the only way momentum really swings in that kind of scenario is when the match that always plays into my head is Burroughs and Imar. Burroughs ran down Imar with seconds on the clock in that first match. And I felt like going into match 2, Burroughs had all the momentum, and Isaiah was able to nip it in the bud, get that second match, and then we went into match 3 kind of even Steven. I feel like it was kind of the same thing here. Matty wins that first match, momentum was going in his way. Gabe was able to halt it, get match 2, and then we rolled into match 3 on a level playing field with everything to wrestle for. And that's how I feel like it kind of went down.
Well, and in this clip, it's the end of the match, but I'm going to give you some background before we get to that. So here's the end of the match and Matty Singleton winning.
Can't let himself get distracted here. Arnold on a mission. Final 3 seconds.
How about that? Matty Singleton gets it done.
And you got some fired up coaches. And Arnold left it all out there.
But before we got to that ending, and you see the score being super close, if you didn't see the entire match, Singleton got up. He got up 5-0 on Gabe. I think he got a step out, a takedown, a gut, and was in control. And that's when Gabe started picking off a point. And boy, I'll tell you what, it seemed like if there was any time left, Gabe was really pushing to try to get that last point. But it's almost like he waited a little too long to kind of put his foot on the gas to make that happen.
That's what it kind of looked like to me. It kind of looked like that there was a 15-second period in there before we get to the last little bit where he was kind of trying to get his breath back and save the gas he had. I just feel like he waited a little too long to kind of press and open the engine up.
Well, shout out. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying, but you never really know what a guy was thinking in the moment, obviously, and in that type of high pressure scenario.
Yeah, like, no,
they both wrestled incredible matches. Let's be frank about this. All 3 of those matches, they both put it all on the line.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think people who are kind of watching it who know a lot about wrestling, but again, I'm not there. I wasn't in the match. I don't know kind of what was going on. I don't know if I would assume that Adam Hall, Singleton's coach, and Hidley over there were like, get up on him, get up by 5 points, and make him open up to try to get to come back. I can imagine that would be the conversation, but I have no clue if that was actually the conversation or not. So there you go. All right. So like you said, tip of the cap to both of them. They both wrestled great. It is fantastic that they were both in the finals. It's a shame that they were in the finals against one another. But you know what? That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. There were a lot of other, these are our 2 world team members from the Southeast, but there were a lot of other really good matches from people from outside the Southeast, but also the U20s. We put a lot on the podium. And do you have the list in front of you, or do you want me to go through them?
I do have the list in front of me, actually.
Okay. So why don't you give me a couple at the top, the freestylers?
Cooper Flynn into the finals at 55 kilograms.
That's U23. That's U23.
Oh, where's the U20 list?
Camden Monroe.
Okay, I see what you did here. My bad. Camden Monroe getting in at 74 kilograms. Carson Floyd putting in a 7th place effort at 92 kilograms. Pace Horn in a loaded heavyweight category getting in at 5th. Brock Van Hook, lost to Joel Adams at 67 kilograms in Greco on his way to a 3rd place result. Then nabbing a 4th place result. And Paradise, I've heard it both ways, and I know the family real well, and I still don't know which way it is. Getting an 8th place finish at 72 kg.
All right, so Camden Monroe, former Georgia wrestler, taking 6th at 74 kilos was great. You mentioned Brendan Van Hoke. He ran into who last week we talked about, Joel Adams being in that challenge tournament. Man, you get him in the semifinals. That's tough because Joel Adams ended up not only winning the challenge tournament, but he won the world team spot. I mean, he
Yeah.
beat the person in the finals, so in the best of 2 out of 3. So Van Hoke taking third, really good. Abden wrestled Paradise and Greco. I think he got a 3-2 win over Paradise. Abden lost his first match and marched his way back through to take fourth. So a good group of U20s. But obviously,
Where's Floyd from again? They didn't mention it.
Carson Floyd is from North Carolina. Went to Lake
That's
Norman.
what I thought. Okay, that's what I thought.
An App State wrestler. So
yeah, we had that talk. Yeah.
So one thing I want to say as we go now to talking about the U23s and Greco is that Lucas and I, because of my schedule tomorrow on Monday, are actually doing this on Sunday afternoon. And we are they're wrestling the finals for U23s and freestyle right now. So we're not going to have the full results for those at the moment. We do end Greco though. And for me, the 2 kids at the bottom of that list that were starred, they did a fantastic job at U23. Do you see them?
Yeah, I do. Get into the finals, Wyatt and Godby.
Yeah, so Keenan Wyatt out of Gardendale, Alabama, got to the finals, lost 9-4, 5-4 at the 87 kilos. And Thomas Godby, who I believe is Vidalia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So,
a Vidalia product.
Vidalia, Georgia. Thomas Godby, who's now at West Point, he came in, got to the finals in 97 kilograms, went 3 matches. Best 2 out of 3. He went 3. He lost 4-3. He won 6-4. And then he ended up losing his last match 5-1. So I don't know. I mean, I didn't see either one of them making a run to the finals at U23 Nationals in Greco. So obviously you can totally get that job done. It was a fantastic job by them.
Yeah.
There were others in the U23s that made the top 8. Do you have that list?
Yep. You got Flynn into the finals. That second name is a little tough to read.
Ethan Oakley.
Ethan Oakley, thank you. Julian Farber, he'll finish top 8. Ramirez into the finals. You got Mason into the top 8. Christian.
Knopp.
Okay, that's what it looked like. But ladies and gentlemen, his handwriting is just about as good as a 7-year-old with palsy. And then you also have Godby getting into the top 8 as well. Lots of guys getting onto the podium, and got 3 in there looking to maybe make a world team.
Well, I don't know if this is a world team trials for U23s.
Oh,
I think it's just nationals.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I could be wrong though. Somebody will have to correct me. But
I don't know either.
We got Cooper Flynn from Virginia Tech and Tennessee. He's in the finals. Ethan Oakley, who is from North Carolina, is and wrestles at App State, had made the finals at 61 kilos.
Yep.
And Julian Ramirez, who is from Florida, then went to Blair, and is now at Cornell, but we still count him part of the Southeast because he registered as Florida. He's in the finals at 74 kilos.
As you should do.
Yeah.
That's where you're from.
To your point, Ed Scott is in the finals. I didn't put him down, although he listed North Carolina, right? But because Lucas has got his opinions on that, and he is a Pennsylvania product.
He's a Pennsylvania state champion. He's not from North Carolina.
So, shout out to Thomas Godby, though. Top 8 in freestyle and second in Greco. That's pretty impressive.
From the Sweet Onion City. Shout out Vidalia.
I'm going to throw out the Greco names real quick that made the top 8. Christian Decatur from North Carolina, 4th at 55 kilos. David Medina from Tennessee was 7th at 60 kilos. Dane Dalrymple, 3rd at 67 kilos. Dylan Cohn from Florida, 7th at 82 kilos. And Kennedy Wyatt, who was 8th at 82 kilos. So a pair of Wyatt boys from Gardendale, Alabama. One makes the finals, one makes top 8 in Greco. Fantastic run by them. And if I get a chance, as I am putting this together and they finish, I will definitely try to put something at the bottom of this to let you know if Cooper Flynn, Julian Ramirez, and Ethan Oakley ended up winning their matches.
Right about here.
Yeah, right down here. All right. So that was U20s and U23s. Now we shift to pretty much the middle of Georgia, right? But something that was near and dear to all of our hearts. You worked really hard at it. And honestly, I think that we had some really good action from this weekend.
Yeah.
So why don't you walk me through how the tournament went?
So the DeSilva Memorial Duels, it ended up being 6 teams, which a quick shout out to Wolfpack Wrestling Club out of Greenbrier, Reverence out of South Carolina, Money Team out of Louisiana, Compound Level Up. We ended up with some really fun matches. I'm convinced Connor Kimbrough and Gavin Pope just decided to have a boxing match. Oh goodness. Richie Clemente and Tanner Spalding had a war.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Weaver and Brian Papkin battled real hard.
You had Kate Parent, Xander Dossett, and Conlon Weaver, who they battled.
70.
You had what? Christianel, what's Christianel's last name? Martinez, who he and Papkin had a good match.
Yeah.
Right. So
there were a lot.
There were some really good matches in there.
Yeah, there were a lot of really fun matches, and Compound ended up winning the event. We, Team Fan Scrappy, we ended up runners up. Third was Level Up. Money Team came in fourth. Your outstanding wrestlers were Richie Clemente, Chase Parent, and Ryder Wilder. You know, it was a lot of fun, and I tried to put it into words in my Instagram, but
I thought you did a good job.
But I still can't even really put all of it into words because there's so much that went into this, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't even know. Like, it never came out. There were rumors going around that the event was going to be canceled that I never said, but I'm not going to lie to everybody. When we went from 12 to 6 in basically an 8-day period, I had 6 teams pull out for different reasons. There was a real big moment where I was like, oh crap, can I even have this event? Like, or are we going to have to balk? But in the end, we ended up getting it done. And I'm going to say this now. We will be doing this again. I already have some ideas. I'm not going to, but the one big one for me is that there will be a different date. Because I feel like that was big for a lot of people. Was the date was tough, and I'll blame that on myself a little bit. Look, I needed at some point pick Donovan Pannone up by his pant cuffs and hold him up until he gives me the dates of the Georgia team camps. That's first. But
it's not just that. But it's not just that. I mean, like we talked about it in the last couple of weeks. Like the calendar is so full. Like you can't cross with NHSCA duels, Southeast regions. You've got end of school happening. Yeah, you've got so much going on, and you got this small little window, and then you got 14 and 16 U duels. This next week in Florida is the SummerSlam, the Knockout SummerSlam, where the last teams go down to it. It's packed, dude. It is so super busy.
Yeah, it was just that there were a lot of different factors for teams pulling out, and I get it. But at the end of the day, we had a great event, had a lot of great wrestling. And it was really cool to run my first tournament. I will admit that. Mr. Moody, actually, he put it into a real interesting thought for me that I didn't really think about. He's like, Lucas, go to any tournament around the country, find me a 21-year-old tournament director. And then he kind of walked away from me because I was stressing. When he said it, I was like, it's a fair point. Like, it is a fair point, but I didn't really think about it like that because I was so focused on everything that was going on. So I'm just blessed at the way it went down. I was super happy with everything. Shout out, like I said on my Insta, Bruton Parker, Coach Tyler Smith, Chris Dooley, our athletic director, our president Eccles, that was really helpful in all of this. Everybody that came down, obviously next year.
So I would say that, you know, it's nice having Compound and Level Up and you know, the local Georgia teams or clubs and things like that. But shout out to Reverence out of South Carolina who came a little bit further. B Money out of Louisiana who came over. It was so nice to see, you know, the different lineups. I mean, Gianni Batone from Reverence, you know, and some of the South Carolina kids.
Yeah.
Richie Clemente, who you already talked about, is just an absolute hammer. And we're going to get a chance to see him at Fargo. You know, it's just nice to see different matchups. So I love the fact that they came in to the tournament.
And the hope would be, I mean, everybody that was there this year said they want to come back. So I'd hope to keep everybody, expand some states, and really get this event booming. And one thing for me that was really cool was having Louisiana in. You know, us in the Southeast, it's not too often we get a lot of Louisiana teams down to a lot of these events. You know, Louisiana, for those who don't know, they wrestle a lot more west. Texas, Oklahoma are like they wrestle that way more, and they touch Tennessee and that and whatnot, and the south parts of Florida, like at the border brawl and all that jazz.
Right.
So it was cool. It was really cool to get them in, and like I said, hope to do it again next year. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. I can't put it all into words enough.
All right. Well, tip of the cap, because it's not an easy thing to pull off.
By the way, I'm never being a tournament director and a head coach again. Bad idea. That was horrific. That killed me.
You know what? If I were a kind person, I would have probably given you some suggestions. But sometimes it's just better to learn as you go along. So
sometimes you need to learn from your own mistakes. Like that's one where it's like, duly noted, never again. Right? Never again.
All right, so let's move to the two big events of this week. I did not have an opportunity to break down the SummerSlam for the Knockout SummerSlam, so we're not going to touch on the Knockout SummerSlam. I know there's a lot of Florida teams that will be there. I know Camden's going down to it because I was talking with Conlon and Ryder and Bradley and all of that. But we're not going to get into those. We're going to shift to the USA Wrestling Duals, Freestyle Greco, 14Us, 16Us. We're going to start with 14Us, who are in Pennsylvania this week, starting Thursday. Thursday, they have Greco. Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, they have Freestyle. And I don't believe Team South Carolina has a team going. I could be wrong. Please let us know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, if we're wrong.
Looking back just to last year, Greco and Freestyle was won by Team New Jersey. Team Tennessee came closest of the Southeast teams to making the top 8, which is what an All-American is. But let's go through and talk a little about a few of these teams and some of the individuals. Does that work for you?
Works for me, yeah.
All right, so let's start with Team Alabama. 14U, Team Alabama. And as you see,
where
they're further over on your sheet. You guys scroll to
Georgia, North Carolina, Florida.
Go even further. One more.
I don't have further.
You don't have further. Well, then I'll talk about Alabama, and we'll go to something else. All right.
Fungal. See this, ladies and gentlemen. He's not even giving me the information. He tried to railroad me.
Do your own research. Do your own research. No, it's okay. All right. So as you can see from the graphic on the screen, Alabama is missing quite a few weights. And I will tell you, any team that is missing more than 1 or 2 weight classes, they're probably not going to make a run as a team. But there are individuals within this group that have some experience. Eli Carter, Griffin Gardner and Drew Adams all wrestled last year on the 14U duals team for the state of Alabama. If you notice, Caleb Gray Lowe is a 7th grader, wrestled at Thompson this past year. He's super tough. But Alabama, because of the holes, this is going to be more watching individuals kind of excel than specifically maybe the team as a whole. All right, so let's now move to Florida. Do you have Florida
one I
in
can
front of
actually
you?
see. Yeah, one I can actually see.
All right, so as you take a look, every single weight class, who on that list sticks out to you or stands out to you?
So obviously, Giovanni Solis, 8-0 last year, 106 pounds in freestyle. Kid's a hammer. We know him.
Yeah.
Then
And he won a state title as a 7th
Yeah,
grader this past
yeah.
year.
Beat Derek Williams in the finals of
That's
Bet.
right. Mm-hmm.
A guy like Peter Mako, of course, interesting as Coach Mako on this team. We got Taylor, Mako, Tovar, and Boda coaches for this team. Those are the two that really immediately stick out to me. Giovanni Tovar, obviously, also 7-1 last year. Don't let me be disrespectful now. I will also just admit to everybody, I feel like most people know this, but I am a little bit not as well known when it comes to the Floridian side of things. I'll be honest, I'm learning, as I do more with Jason.
And to be fair, I don't know many of the 14Us. These aren't, except for Giovanni Solis, right? We haven't seen any of them in high school. So
yeah, these would be middle school.
So these are kids that, unless they wrestled last year, and you mentioned Tovar, you mentioned Mako because of the name Mako, and you mentioned Solis. Well, we saw Solis wrestle. I bet you money there's going to be somebody else in that group on all of these teams who actually have a really, really good weekend. I just don't know who those people are yet.
Yeah, like it's going to happen. There's going to be some people that go undefeated, and it's going to be like, well, we just didn't know.
Right. All right, so let's move to Team North Carolina. And Team North Carolina is missing 2 weights. And really, again, similar to Team Florida in that we don't know a lot of these names. I do know a few of the names in that, let's see, Michael Woodard, Efren Davis, and Jashrun Mills all placed at Southeast Regionals in 14U and freestyle. So that should give you an idea that at least that they're making the podium in Southeast Regionals, they're going to be in the hunt. But again, with 2 forfeits in the group, the rest of the squad really needs to wrestle at a next level if North Carolina is going to be competitive for a top 8 finish.
Yeah, it's going to take some good efforts from guys that we just don't know yet. And, maybe this is, we've seen it every year or so. There's 1 or 2 guys that these national duels is their breakout performance. We've seen it, so who knows?
Yeah. All right, so let's move over to Team Georgia. I know you've got to feel a little more comfortable with Team Georgia.
Yeah, a little bit more comfortable for sure.
All right, and one of the things I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, but one of the things I really like about Team Georgia is that they're bringing a full squad. 1, number 2, they have like 2 kids at some weights throughout. So this is a grind. I mean, you wrestle in Greco and freestyle over 4 days. You're getting like 15 matches, total. Yeah. The ability to plug somebody in to help you if somebody twists an ankle or if they're tired or they cut weight or whatever the case is, it is nice to have that as a situation. So
absolutely.
Who on this squad stands out to you?
So immediately you look at Uriah Mills. He's the first one on the list that has some experience, 6-1. Cody Clark, brother of DJ Clark, Bryson Drennan, Tanner Hunt. I know Johnny Hunt, his father, real well, so that's a family friend of mine, and he's a killer as well. Don't get that twisted. Ty Valenzuela. Then you go a little bit higher, Mihai Nekula. I believe that's how you say that name. Please, Miss Nekula, don't have your son throw me across the country. Thank you. Just like you said, it's duels is a grind, so it is really good to have some extras. I remember when we went, Georgia split into 2 teams, and basically both lineups were one guy each, and it wasn't great. It really wasn't. So it's good to have some backups and as well for duels, you might want to get some different matchups. So always good.
Yeah. So I think to just add to what you said, Cruz Hazel and Bear Bringer also I think wrestled on this 14U team last year. How big? I personally I think it's huge to be a second year 14U than a first year 14U or a second year cadet as opposed to a first year cadet or a second year junior as opposed to a first year junior. So those individuals who have that experience, I would think that's got to play a huge role.
Oh, absolutely. I think it is really it's really important to have that experience there just for the sake of knowing, okay, hey, we got 5, 6 matches in one style and we got to be ready because we got 4 days of wrestling. So it's for sure helpful to have that experience.
All right, so let's move to the final team of 14Us that we're going to talk about, and that is Team Tennessee. Couple things that pop out to me from this list are really in the middle of the lineup. Jackson Lane, Gary High, Dylan Villers. Those three are absolutely solid. They wrestled 14Us last year in the duels. They're going to be really, really tough for Team Tennessee. But you don't win duels out of, I don't know how many weight classes we have here, with 3 wins or 3 falls.
Yeah, no, 18 weights, it ain't going to do it for you.
You got to have other people step up. You got Jakai Roller. I think that's how you say Jakai's name up top. I assume that's a younger brother of Kevion Roller, but I don't know that for sure. He placed at Southeast Regionals. You got a Dominic Cordero in there. I think Blake Johnson wrestled last year in 14Us. I could be wrong about that. But again, like we said with, I don't remember who it was, Florida maybe, you've got to have other individuals step up if the team as a whole is going to win some really close duels.
No, absolutely. You're going to need people to answer the bell when it's asked them if you want to win.
All right, so let me ask you this question. Out of these teams from the Southeast, who finishes highest?
Obviously my knowledge that I do have tells me Georgia, just from what I know. But that Florida team does look really good as well. And when it comes to having a full lineup, that is super helpful for Florida and Georgia.
Yeah. Probably gives them a
Tennessee-
little bit of an edge over Tennessee.
Tennessee,
Alabama,
maybe if
because
you bump like Stinnett or Cordero to 87 and then Veers or Longley to 125, but then you're kind of putting them out of weight class. So I feel like it'd be Georgia or Florida. I'm going to be the homer and say Georgia because I know it more. So I wouldn't be surprised if Florida places higher, I'm not going to be tremendously surprised. I just don't know them as well.
Do you think Georgia will make top 8?
I think it's possible. This is a very good 14U squad. When you look, just for names, Mills Clark, Drennan Valenzuela, Landon Bell. Is that Christian Bell's little brother?
I don't know.
For some reason, I think it is. I could be entirely wrong. So I'm not, that's 6, 7 guys right there. That's about halfway through your lineup. And then you got guys like Drennan and Hunt that I think are tough and just haven't really had the same opportunities. And you got guys like Hazel, Ringer, who have experience. I think Georgia's team is primed to do really good. I just don't know for sure.
Got it. So one thing I want to say to everybody is the graphics that were showing up here, they're on the website with a little bit of a breakdown that I wrote for each one of them. Same for 16Us as well. And let's jump to the 16Us where they get started on Wednesday. So I'm not sure when you'll actually see this. It'll drop either Monday or Tuesday. But they begin their Greco session on Wednesday and Thursday as well. And then Friday and Saturday are the freestyle. The 16Us, you can, and the 14Us you can watch on Flow Wrestling. I've got links to the brackets. We've got links to the brackets on the website as well. Once those actually get released. Last year, California took the Greco title. But Florida, I think, was the only Southeast team. Oh no, Tennessee took top 8 in Greco. Florida took top 8 in freestyle.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's at least what you said on the website.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully it's right. All right. So let's now flip to 16U. And let's go in reverse order. We ended with Tennessee. So let's begin with Team Tennessee. This is a super good squad.
This team is tough. Like, starting with Chittum, Reagan, Cordero, Richie. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and Tanner Tran, Chase Walker.
I didn't even
Ollie
see Tanner
Phillips.
Tran in there.
Yeah, man. I mean, they are.
You got some hitters. You got some hitters down low. And let's not, and let's not act like the top end of the lineup, you don't have Max Norman in there.
Right.
As well as other guys with dual experience. Like, this team is nasty.
Well, and Max Norman was 9-0 in both freestyle and Greco at these duels last year.
So that's 18. Good Lord.
He is certainly got to be one of the top 170 pounders in 16Us around. And who's sitting with him at 170? Cy Fowler.
My Lord.
Cy Fowler's super good. So,
my God.
So Tennessee, on paper, looks like a team that could really, really make a run for a top spot. Now,
for sure,
in my opinion, you know what you're going to get: Chittum, Reagan, Cordero, Richie, Tran, blah blah blah. You already mentioned them before. You got Malachi Puckett in the middle there. Finley Smout, who is at 152. But the key in my opinion is 182, 195, 220, and 285. Those 4 weight classes, Tennessee can battle with any team in the country. Okay. Those 4 weight classes, somebody in those 4 weight classes is going to be called upon to win a big match to put Tennessee in a, top.
Yeah. Someone there is going to have to step up and answer the bell.
Yep. So that's yeah. But it's a fantastic squad. All right. So let's now move to Team Georgia, who also starts out really tough down low.
Yeah. It's a real good down low. Is Georgia having 2 teams?
So that's a good question.
Because seems like
they have enough for 2 teams.
I do believe, and I want to say they are, because Caleb Forbes down there at 195. Shout out, he was my 195 this weekend. Shout out to Caleb. He got called last minute to join the team. So my assumption is they are having 2 teams. But like you said, start of this line, MacArthur, Metz, Flavius Mills, then you hit Prinzo, and then you go into a guy like Owens, who's been there, done that. He also, with Patrick Smythe there in as well. You go Herring into Hagen Sharp, my 126 from this past weekend, who's a killer. There's a couple weights in there where it's guys who we don't know. A guy like Hunter Keene. We know how good he is. He hasn't been on that stage. A guy like a David Jewell, a Xander Dawson, that they're good. We know they are. They've just never been on the scene. So now that's where we really get to see, do they perform? And that's what Georgia's going to need.
Well, so, you look at that 132, you got Hunter Keene and Josiah Boyden, and we don't know who will be on which team or how that'll work.
I'm imagining for Greco, they would have Boyden on the A. I'm imagining. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's Keene in freestyle, because I think Keene beat him in freestyle and then Boyden in Greco. And I know you could do that. Like, I know you can do that.
Yeah. They're 2 different tournaments.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying they might have one in freestyle and then flip them. That's what I would imagine.
So, I guess the question you have to ask yourself, I think Team Georgia, if all of these kids were on a single team, I think they could make a run for a top 8 spot, an All-American spot. You take these teams and you split them, and somebody gets dinged. This happens or that happens. Somebody's hurt, or I don't know. You pull a muscle here.
That's the one.
You can't make up for forfeits. It's so hard.
I get bringing 2 teams. I completely understand it. But I'll give you an example. I remember when my team, we went schoolboy duels. We had Pennsylvania A on the ropes. I knocked Ed Scott off. We had a real good chance, and we were rolling. We had a guy get hurt at 70, and we didn't have a 95, and we didn't have a heavy. We lost the duel by 5. And it was bro, they got 15 in forfeits. And that means we were up 10. We were up 10 in math of just wrestling. We gave them 15 in forfeits. So obviously praying for health, right? If you're Team Georgia.
Well, and the only reason we bring this up is I think it actually happened last year to Team Georgia. I think
it did.
I think
I'm sitting here
they were in the hunt, and then next thing you know, you get one kid kind of goes out, and then this happens, and then this happens, and next thing you know, you just simply cannot make up 15 points. You just can't do it.
In high school wrestling, I always say this: math is the ultimate equalizer. That's just the way. Sure. We know. But I'm saying in wrestling specifically, you little turd nugget, that math is the ultimate equalizer.
I agree. All right. So let's move to Team North Carolina. And on paper, Team North Carolina does not have nearly the number of first, they have 4 forfeits, right? That's tough. Okay.
Yeah.
But they also don't have returners. I think Joseph Little and Ethan Brownlee are the only 2 that wrestled at a duels last year. And you can't overestimate the experience that you get from wrestling in those environments. So I don't know what we'll see from Team North Carolina. There are some individuals I'm super interested in seeing. Dominic Blue at 170. I'd like to see him compete. But I will say, 4 forfeits. We just talked about it. You can't give up 20 points and expect to win. Even if you could win so many other matches, but giving up that many points, you are going to really struggle to win as a team.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for sure.
All right, so let's transition now to Team Florida, who it's really interesting. There's a lot of really talented kids on Team Florida. You've got Everett Stevens, you got Liam Davis, you got Zeno Moore, you got Michael Mako. Okay, they've all been here before. Gavin Fisher, they've all wrestled in the duels. But you also have some really good wrestlers in there that haven't been on these duels before.
Yeah.
How important is that experience? Is it going to matter in this, or are these kids just going to go out and they're just going to go?
I do think it matters. I just do, because I've been there, and it's sometimes, man, it's the ability to have to be okay, I just wrestled this match. Okay, we got about 40 minutes, and then I have 2 more today. And sometimes it's a mental game you almost have to play, where you can just be okay, fine, I'm all right. And sometimes if you haven't been there before, and you take a bad loss that maybe you shouldn't have taken, and it gets into your head. It happened to me in Greco. I'll admit it. I lost to a kid from Oklahoma. I was up 7. He roared back to get me. And then pretty much the rest of the day, I was shot. And it happens. So some of these guys that haven't been there, I wonder, do they have the mental game to do this? And look, Jonathan Motor is a murderer. That's not the question. It's all about the up here that I'm going to question if you haven't been there before.
Well, and
it's just like Fargo. I mean, we talk about Fargo all the time, that it can overwhelm you if you've never been there before. Same thing here, in my opinion.
Well, and to be fair, you look at Charlie DeSena, Yandro Soto, even though they didn't wrestle at the 14U or 16U duels they wrestled freestyle at Elite 8. So they get this idea. But you did wrestle, I mean, I guess you wrestled 5 matches. It wasn't any Greco. So I don't, a lot of these kids are going to be called on to wrestle both Greco and freestyle. That's, a thing. One positive for Team Florida, I think, and there's a lot of positives, don't get me wrong. But one positive is they again brought a full lineup except for 88 pounds. And then they brought 6 other kids. And it's so nice to be able to, they're not gonna have a team Florida A and B or red and blue. They're gonna have one squad. And I'll tell you, the ability to move somebody in and say, I want you to go out there and just battle this kid. Don't give up anything, any bonus points or anything along those lines. And you've got a stud on the other side. And to be able to, score a point, because scoring a point in freestyle and Greco and duels is so very important.
For those of you who don't know, in freestyle and Greco, this is how I explained in the coaches meeting for the people who were uninitiated. Pin is 5 points for your team, 0 for the other team. Tech fall with a shutout, so 10-0, 11-0 is 4-0. But if it's 10 or if it's 11-1, 12-1, 13-2, it's 4 for them, 1 for you. So that point is super, super important, and not giving up the fall. Right? And decision is 3-0 and a shutout, 3-1. So the thing is, and with a coaching staff of Ramsey, Palazzo, Diarmas, and Moret, you would assume, and it's a fair assumption, these kids are going to have the right. The coaching staff for Florida will be very crucial in a tournament like this. A good staff at this type of event is paramount to be successful.
Yeah, well, and you battle 9-1. You're super close. 9-2. Man, that's 3-1 where it could have gone 4-0 very quickly.
Yes.
Those 2 points.
No, exactly.
Those 2 points, if you go back and look at last year's duels, I think there were teams that, like California, won on criteria 37-37, because they had more wins, 9 wins versus 8 wins. So keep that in mind. Those things matter in these situations.
Absolutely. No, it's critical. Absolutely.
All right. So Team Alabama, very similar to Team Florida in that they only have 1 forfeit at 220. They have some studs down below: Jamison Thomas, 88 pounds, Will Atkinson, Adam Plaisance.
Yeah, I don't have them. I don't have them either.
Oh, well, I'll teach you how to scroll over on your thing.
No, it's because you sent me the rosters from 523, so you probably don't have Alabama in there yet.
Oh, maybe not. All right. But one of the things about Alabama is they've got Thomas, Plaisance, Atkinson, Phillips, Hastings, Dozier, Brad Williams, Cody Kirk. You have 8 wrestlers who have experience.
Yep.
That is huge.
Oh, that's so important to this, is having that experience.
And they also, like Florida, appears to have several individuals who will they can fill in and those sorts of things. So Alabama having those spots are super important to, I think, them really having a lot of success this weekend or this coming week in 16U duels. All right. So let's wrap this up with a question as it relates to, as you're looking at the 16U duels teams, is there one team? Do we have more than one team that you think will make top 8? Do you think that there's one team that will make top 8? What do you think?
I think Tennessee really looks primed to make top 8.
I agree.
And I think Georgia, maybe some things go right. Maybe they could. Florida, maybe, again, some things go right. But just looking outside, looking in, that 138 and below for Tennessee is daunting to take on. The idea of in a dual meet having to possibly wrestle, because you gotta imagine Tanner Tran's gonna get matches. So I could see this happening. Chittum, Reagan, Tran, Cordero, Richie, Phillips, Ledbetter, Little, Puckett. Look, have fun wrestling that. Like that right there is a nasty first 6 or 7. And that would get them onto such a lead and momentum. And then you get Smout, who's been there before, and Norman and Fowler at 70. Like, I think we will see Tennessee top 8. I might be as bold as to say top 4. I might go that far.
I think they have a legit shot. I think the difference between a really at the very top and the bottom of the top 8 will be 182, 195, 220, and 285.
Absolutely. It's going to be to Kendall, Holland, and the staff get those heavies ready to at the very least fight like hell and not give up a fall.
Yeah.
Because you would think you could probably get into a lead. And maybe when you need it, you bump Norman because he's a big 70. You can bump him to 82 against the right kind of matchup, slide Fowler in, and you're good there. It's really going to be the big boys that you need to say, I don't care if you get punched in the face and get a penalty point. You need to get on the board and then fight like hell.
Yeah, don't give up a fall.
But that team is nasty, bro.
That team is nasty. It is super good. I agree with you. All right, man. All right. So U20, U23s, shout out to everybody who placed. Fantastic job. Shout out to you and everybody who competed at the Don DeSilva Memorial Duels. It was a fun weekend. I've got pictures. You can find the link on the website. I'm going to kind of pull together a few clips. I didn't take a whole lot of video. I took mostly pictures and that sort of thing. And then last but not least, 16Us, 14Us. Best of luck to all of the teams as they head to Pennsylvania and Illinois. And I'm really interested. The one thing I will say is that I'm really interested in kids that we may not know a whole lot about going out and going 6-2 and getting some absolutely quality wins that you didn't necessarily know who they were. That's cool.
Absolutely. I'm just excited for that.
All right, man. Any last words?
Hey, it's gonna be a fun week of wrestling. You got juniors and girls right around the corner, and then obviously backyard brawl for me later in the year. But again, the all roads lead to Fargo, and the prep and the buzz now as people are starting. We're getting to duels. This might be my favorite time of year.
Yeah, no,
it really might be. It's close. Like when you hit duels and then after duels going into individual, there's a lot of buzz. But man, the pilgrimage to Fargo every year, just the fact that it's kind of become a rite of passage for wrestlers that you must go to Fargo. Yeah. So it's awesome. I'm excited. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipeline, and pretty soon I got some big fat and scrappy news to announce as well. So it's
okay.
I'm in a fantastic. This is awesome, and I love this time of year.
All right, man. Well, we will touch base back with everyone next week. 14U, 16U dual results. Hopefully, pull some clips from track wrestling to be able to show you some of the things that happened. And we'll preview the juniors and the girls who will be in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Man. Peace. Take care.